Good morning, my dear students. A warm welcome to all of you to today's biology class. So first, let us look at what we have done in the previous class. We have already begun the second type of reproduction, that is sexual mode of reproduction. And we had also discussed why sexual reproduction is necessary. But first of all, let us recap what is sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction is a mode of reproduction in which two partners are required, or two parents or two individual organisms are required, and the individual organism should have different sex, that is male and female. So during sexual reproduction, the male organisms have male organs, and the male organs produce the male gamete, and the male gamete is called sperm, which is small and it has a head and a tail so that the sperm can move towards the female gametes. On the other hand, the female organism have female organs which produces the female gamete called ovum or egg, and it is generally large and it stores food. Now, when the male and the female gamete combines or fuses with each other, that process is called fertilization. And after the fusion of the male and the female gamete, the zygote is formed, which grows into a new organism. So, sexual reproduction involves DNA as well as cellular apparatus of two different organisms, that is the male and the female organism, and this promotes the diversity of characters in the offspring. So you'll find that lots of variation and diversity is found in the characteristic of the offspring. Since gametes are derived from two different organisms, the resultant new combination of gene will increase the chance of genetic variation, and as a result it will be advantageous for the whole population. Sexual reproduction results in the origin of new species also. Sexual reproduction involves division in the sex cells that reduces the DNA matter to half, so that the zygote formed after the fertilization has the same amount of DNA as that of the parents. That means when the gametes combine with each other and the offspring is produced, the number of chromosomes that the parents have should also be maintained in the offspring's body. So that is the reason why the DNA reduces to half, and then they combine together to form the zygote, and in the offspring which will be developed from the zygote contains the same amount of DNA as that of the parents. Human beings become reproductively active from the onset of puberty. So before puberty, the reproductive organs are not very active, or the gametes formation is not taking place. So puberty is the period during adolescence when the rate of the general body growth will reduce or slow down, and then the reproductive tissues will begin to mature. So puberty is associated with many physical, mental, emotional and physiological changes in boys and girls, which occur slowly over a period of time. That means during puberty there will be change in the physical appearance, there will be change in the emotion of the boy and the girls, yes, and then also physiological changes will be seen. So this is what we have learned in the previous class. So in today's class, we will be discussing about the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. So after today's class, you will be able to explain and you will understand about the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system in human. Now look at the screen. So this is the male reproductive system, and you can see the picture of the human male reproductive system. So the Male reproductive system consists of the following components. It has one pair of testes. It has epididymis, vas deferens or the sperm duct. It also has urethra, penis, and the glands are also associated with the male reproductive system. So the glands which are associated are the seminal vesicle, prostate gland, and the Cowper's gland. So now, since you know the components of the male reproductive system, let us study about the function and in detail about the different components of the male reproductive system. So the first component is testes. Testes. So testes in the diagram is here. So it is present outside the body of the male. And why it is present outside the body of the male? Because the main function of testes is to produce sperms. So it produces sperms, and sperms cannot be produced at a temperature of the normal human body. So the temperature at which the sperms will be produced is 1 to 3 degrees less than the normal body temperature. So it is present outside the body, and it occurs in pair. That means two testes are present in males, and the two testes occur or are located on either side of the penis. And another function of testes is to produce the male hormone called testosterone. So what is the function of testosterone? Testosterone is responsible for the development of secondary sexual characteristics. Say for example, when boys grow up, they begin to have beard, mustache. Yes, so that those are the secondary sexual characteristics. Not only that, there are different changes, physical changes which takes place in the body of the male, and then the testosterone is responsible for those development. So testes main function is to produce the sperm and also secrete the male hormone called the testosterone. And why is it present outside the body? Because for the production of sperm, the temperature required should be less than the normal body temperature. So to maintain that temperature, it is located outside the body. Yes. So next component is scrotum. What is scrotum? So here you can see a sac-like structure inside which the testes is present. So that structure, bag-like structure, is called the scrotum, and its function is to protect the testes, and it is the extension of the abdominal cavity. Yes, it's the extension of the abdominal cavity, and it protects the testes, and also it helps in maintaining the temperature lower than the body temperature. As I have already mentioned that the sperms can only be produced at a lower temperature than the normal body temperature of a male. So the scrotum will be protecting the testes, and it will also maintain the temperature, which will help in the production of the sperms. So the next component of male reproductive system is the epididymis. So epididymis, you can see this part is the epididymis. Yes, so it is a complex tube-like structure in the scrotum, and the main function of the epididymis is to store the sperm till it matures, and it also helps in the passage of the sperm. So the sperm is produced in the testes, and from the testes it has to move out. So it will move out through the epididymis, which is a complex tube-like structure. It's a tube-like structure, and from the testes, when the sperms are produced, they will be moving out of the testes through the epididymis, and it will connect to the another tube which lies next to it, the vas deferens. So the main function of the epididymis is to store sperm till it is mature, and it also helps in the passage of the sperms from the testes to the vas deferens. So lying next to the epididymis is the vas deferens. So vas deferens is also a tube-like structure, and it emerges from the lower part of the epididymis. So here you can see that it is arising or emerging from the lower part of the epididymis. Wherever the epididymis ends, it will begin from then, and its main function is to bring the sperm from the epididymis, and it will take it towards the penis. Yes, so it is the opening to the ejaculatory ducts. Yes, so the vas deferens will be carrying it towards the penis, and then the sperm will be ejected. The next component is penis. It is a muscular copulatory organ. So the organ through which the sperm will be discharged is called the penis, and the main function is to discharge the sperm when there is intimacy between the male and the female. So the sperm will be discharged from the male body through the penis. So apart from the component which we have discussed, there are also other components of male reproductive system, that is, it's the urethra. So urethra is tube-like structure, and then it is also the common path or the passage through which both the sperm and the urine will move out of the male body. So here you can see this is the urethra. That means the vas deferens will combine with another tube which arises from the urinary bladder, and together they will join together and they form a common passage, and that common passage is called the urethra. And what is the function of the urethra? It will pass the urine and the sperm out of the male body. The male reproductive system also have some glands. So the glands which the male reproductive system have is the prostate gland, the seminal vesicle, and the Cowper's gland. So the prostate gland is present on the way towards the urethra. So as the sperm is produced in the testes, and after that it moves out through the epididymis and it passes through the vas deferens, on the way the prostate gland will secrete milky fluid that will help in sperm mobility. So that means it will help the sperm to move easily. Also it will provide nourishment, nutrients to the sperm so that the sperm can survive. So the sperm, when it moves out of the testes and then it gets mixed with the secretion of prostate gland, then it is called semen. So now the semen, as it moves out through the vas deferens, passes through the vas deferens, it will also move near another gland which is called seminal vesicles. So seminal vesicle produces viscous fluid which helps in sperm mobility in female. So after the sperm is discharged from the penis, the sperm has to move inside the female body. So while moving inside the female body, the secretion secreted by the seminal vesicles will help it to move inside the female body. And there is another gland called Cowper's gland, and this gland helps to lubricate the female passage. Now, since you have understood the male reproductive system, let us now understand about the female reproductive system. So the female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries, a pair of fallopian tube or oviducts, a uterus or it's also called womb, and the vagina or the birth canals. So here you can see in the diagram, yes, so these are the ovaries, this is the ovary, and then connected to the ovary is the fallopian tube or oviduct, and then it will end up, the oviduct ends up to form the uterus, the cervix is here, and then the vagina, the opening of the female reproductive system or the birth canal. So let's understand about the female reproductive system in detail, and let us understand what is the function of each part of the female reproductive system. So first is the ovaries. So ovaries, these are the ovaries. There are two ovaries. Yes, there is one pair of ovary, one on each side. Yes, so the main function or the main role of ovary is to produce a female sex cell, which is also called ovum, ova or egg. It also secretes hormones, female hormones called the estrogen and the progesterone. Similarly, as in case of the male hormone testosterone is produced by the testes. Similarly, the ovaries also produce the female hormone called the progesterone and estrogen. And what is the function of these hormones in female? It is responsible for the development of secondary sexual characteristics. Yes, so the main function of ovary is to produce the female gamete, or we can call it as ova, egg, ovum, and also it produces the female hormone estrogen and progesterone. The next part of the female reproductive system is the oviduct or the fallopian tube. Yes, so the oviduct is a tube-like structure which is in contact with the ovary, and there are small finger-like projection in the mouth of the fallopian tube. It is funnel shape. As you can see, it is funnel shape. The shape is such so that it can receive the egg or the ovum from the ovary. When the ovary releases the ovum or the egg, it can receive it, and a number of eggs are present inside the ovary, but only one egg will be maturing at a time, and the eggs will be producing from each ovary alternatively. If in 1 month the right ovary produces the egg, releases the egg, in the next month the left ovary will release the egg. So alternatively each ovary will be releasing the egg, and the oviduct or the fallopian tube will be receiving the egg, and the finger-like projection which is present in the mouth of the fallopian tube will help it to receive and push it into the duct, so that the egg can move into the duct, because egg do not have any tail so that it can move easily. So the finger-like projection will push it into the fallopian tube, and also the fallopian tube is the site where the fusion of the male and the female gamete will take place. That means the sperm will get inside the female organ, and then it will move towards the fallopian tube so that it can fuse with the egg if any egg has been released, and if no egg is released, no fusion will take place. So fallopian tube also is only one pair present in the female reproductive system, that means 2 on either sides. Then it originates from each ovary, and its main function is to receive ovum from the ovary. Now let's look at the other component of the female reproductive system. So the other component is uterus. So uterus is a pear-shaped hollow structure. Here is the uterus. Yes, so this part is the uterus. So it is a hollow pear-shaped structure, and it is the site or the place where the fetus develop. So I said that when the egg is released, and at the time of the release of the egg, if the sperm enters the female body, the sperm will come to the fallopian tube and the fusion will take place. After the fusion of the male and the female gamete, what happens? The zygote is formed. Yes, and slowly the zygote will move towards the uterus, and then the zygote is a single cell. It will keep on dividing, yes, several times, and it will form the embryo. The embryo further forms the fetus. So the embryo, in the embryonic stage, the embryo will come and get implanted on the sides of the uterus, and in the meantime the uterus will also prepare itself to receive the embryo. So the main function of uterus is to help in the development of the fetus. And here is the cervix. It is a narrow lower part of the uterus. Yes, the next component of the female reproductive system is the vagina. So here is the vagina. This is the opening through which the sperm enters the uterus, and from the uterus it moves towards the fallopian tube. So it is tube-like structure, and the sperm is discharged in the vagina, and it also acts like birth canal. So when the baby is formed inside the uterus and it develops, and after 9 months when the baby has to come out of the female body, it will come out of the vagina. It will come out through the vagina, and that is the reason why it acts like a birth canal. So this is about the female reproductive system, the functions and the components of the female reproductive system. So I hope that you have understood both the male and the female reproductive system, and also the functions and the difference between these two reproductive systems. So in next class we'll be discussing about after the male and the female gamete fuses with each other, what is the next stage or what happens after that. We'll be discussing in the next class. So now let us summarize what we have learned in today's class. So in today's class we have learned about the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. We have learned that the male reproductive system consists of the following components: a pair of testes, an organ called penis, a system of ducts, epididymis, vas deferens or the sperm duct, and the urethra, a system of glands, seminal vesicles, prostate gland, and the Cowper's gland. In the female reproductive system, the following components are present, that is a pair of ovaries, one pair of fallopian tubes or oviducts, a uterus, and the vagina or the birth canal. So this is all for today's class. Thank you and have a great day.